I was raised Catholic, and I couldn't find the reasoning for the trilogy. And also, I was not seeing what I was being preached. And then I bounced around. I read about reincarnation, Buddhism, and these kinds of things, all this strange stuff. I didn't have any faith. And I got to a point where Allah pushed me on a New Age path. So I found this woman. She told me I had a very powerful third eye. I was a healer and this and that. And then she sent me to another teacher who taught me all kinds of things. And we did work on my body and on my chakras and on my energy. And that went on for years. I mean, it was really wild stuff. So I got through that, and the darkness started to take over. So I found an energy guru, someone who does energy work over the phone, which you know is the jinn. And she decided we were going to do workshops around the world together and this and that. She said one day, you have to go to Egypt in 3 days. And I flew to Egypt in 3 days. She said, just get a taxi driver, have him take you out to this place in the desert called Saqqara. That's where the step pyramid is. And you need to tone in front of these niches. I want to get into the seraphim. And they said, it's impossible. It's being renovated. There were inspectors of archaeology, I found out later. One came over, told me it was impossible. The second one came over, got me into the seraphim, but he also proposed 1 week later. And I was married to him in Cairo 3 months later. So this is how Allah, and he was a Muslim, obviously, and I knew nothing about Islam. But I didn't come to Islam for another 6 months. I had to hit the wall, lose everything, and then gain Islam. If you're looking for spirituality, but you don't want rules, that's the path to get on. They spoke about God. They spoke about the angels. So the New Age path is like my teacher in the mystery school said that he had slayed a dragon. I mean, these are the kinds of things that they just suck you in with. It's very seductive, and that's what I would say to people who are looking at it, but it does not bring you peace. You have more questions than answers on that path. And when I started reading the Quran before I was Muslim, all my questions were answered. So I would say the big difference between the New Age path, you can get in there and anything goes. And that's a feeling of freedom for people. But the real freedom is being close to your Lord. And what I found in Islam is just answer. I would read the Quran and I would be like, oh my God, who wrote this? You know, so before I was Muslim, I was just like, it was so beautiful. Then the teachers there turned to darkness. That was a shock for me. You know, these people that were all light and I was following them, all of a sudden they were doing exorcisms and they were becoming abusive. But nothing really shocked me until my guru that came to Egypt finally, the way she was not good. My husband said, I think that you need to meet her in England, because he knew that she was not right. And so when we went to England, she ended up locking the door and throwing us out. And I was in her yard with nothing. All of a sudden, a driver drives up with brand new clothing, and the plastic over it had my credit card, which I had given her for business purposes. And that's when I lost everything I'd ever gained. She was using my credit card for something other than business. So yeah, about $80,000 to $100,000, I would say. $80,000 to $100,000 I lost on that path. But that money did not matter because it got me to Islam. And one night I decided I don't want to live. I wasn't Muslim yet. But then I said, you know what? If I do this, I'll even be farther away from God. And I said, no, God, I am going to stay alive and live this life you gifted me. My mother was the only one that was staunchly on Catholicism. And my mother asked me that question when we had the dreaded conversation after I converted. She said, why didn't you convert to Christianity? And I said, Ma, why would I worship the Son when I can worship the Father? I put it in terms that she could understand. She just was silent after that. And she never asked me about Islam again after that negatively. After I realized what that New Age path actually was, And then it was the feeling that night, after a month of just being a shell, that feeling of not wanting to live. That's what pushed me. So what happened was, after that, it was Ramadan. So I said, I want to fast with you. Teach me how to pray. And I made my shahada in the bedroom, and life went on like that. It was so beautiful. So that was my pivotal point. Allah took away everything, and I said, I don't want to live this life, but He gifted me Islam, which was amazing. I had a relative who was not so loving and accepting. That was a problem, but I just had to cut her out of my life for a while. My family at first rejected me, and then they were drawn to the Islam in me. I mean, they would call me separately and ask for advice, and they'd say, you're so wise. I'm like, it's not me, it's the Quran, but you don't want to hear that. The only horror story was with that one relative, but the rest of them were just, if it was too much for them, they just stayed away, and which was fine with me. I loved my sister's reaction when I first put the hijab on for my family. It was the elephant in the room that my hair was covered because nobody else was. She finally leaned over and said, having a bad hair day, Loretta? Everybody just cracked up, and that broke the ice, and then they had questions about it. That was my first time with my family with hijab.